Hi everyone, and welcome to Learn With Me. I thought what we'd do in this time was actually start off with some presentations on how I'm actually doing some of these presentations and really get some ideas forward for how people can use digital education in the classroom. I've actually got with me David Anderton from St Margaret's and Berwick Grammar School. Hi David, how are you going?
Hey, good Dan, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. It'll be good to kind of get an understanding of in the current climate, why something like this would be quite important for your classroom.
Well, we've been moving on to the distance learning, uh, platform for a couple of weeks now. We've understood that there's a need to do that in the current climate. So we've been preparing this for a couple of weeks, and really for me, it's about maximising the simple tools that we have available to us, and making it easy enough for anyone to really be able to pick up and go with. For me, what I want to be able to do is make a presentation for one of my VCE classes. So that's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to get that started anyway.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's just jump into it and we'll get some understanding as we go. So, what I thought would start with is some basic concepts of why or how a digital classroom can actually work. This is by no means an absolute way it should be ran. This is just my quick 5 minutes when David came to me this afternoon and said, "Can you help me?" So what I've actually started with is actually the concept of talk when no one's listening. So right now I'm actually underneath in my rumpus room and we're recording with no one else listening, with the exception of David, who's joining me for the presentation. We don't have our classroom in front of us and we're not actually teaching you in live real time. Why this is quite important is it really gives us the ability to focus on the content and really get that right, and then we can actually move into engaging our community or our learners later. And that's that second part. Be open to engage. And it sounds quite simple, but it's really trying to get that understanding that when we are engaging with them through text message or Teams or Slack or even Google Hangouts, because they've already watched the presentation and the content, it should be our turn to actually listen back and really try and get understanding of where they are and help them through it. Preparation and flow, as we start getting into more of the complex stuff, you'll find that the more preparation you do and the better that flow that you can create the content, upload that content, and then be available for your students when they're using that content. That flow and that preparation really comes into hand. And always be learning. Realistically, what I'm telling you now could be obsolete in a month, because I know that OBS and a lot of other programs out there are rapidly trying to actually improve their services just to make it easier for you. So if we actually move across onto the next slide, what we'll actually see, sorry if I actually click it, is some of the terminology. So if you hear me use this terminology, basically what shoot for the edit means is that rather than recording a video like this and then spending hours and days on trying to edit that video, and it can be quite consuming. On average, for every minute of video, you're going to need to do about an hour or two of post editing if you have experience in post editing, so that's like Adobe video editing software, and that's a lot of time and effort. So shoot for the edit is a concept that, for instance, skateboarders use that is really enabling you to how do we shoot this video now so that I don't have to do as much editing later. OBS is open broadcasting software, so that's the software we're going to be using today because it's free and open source, so you can easily get access to it. An audio mixer, as we start getting into it, is how do we bring the audio together with the video. So right now I've got my camera right here, I've got two screens, I've got my laptop and I've got my camera right at the back there, and the audio mixer is how do I bring all of the audio to mesh with the camera and my screens that I'm presenting. Copy, unlike copy and paste, what copy is actually referring to is the content and information that we're actually presenting, and the assets of the digital images, videos, and the digital assets that we're actually going to be utilizing in this. So what we're actually going to be using is a program called Open Broadcasting Software. Why this is such a great program is because it's open source and it's free. What that means, open source means that people are spending their time and giving their time for free to create this software that anyone can use and anyone can actually then customize. you can get it for free. You can download the latest stable build of it, which is just a very quick download and very quick install. But that will allow you to do exactly what I'm doing now. I'm actually using OBS and done exactly what I'm going to teach you right now to create this very stream. The live stream, so that's the ability, so rather than me pre-recording this and pushing it out to external content, you're actually presenting that to the world. So on Twitch TV, YouTube live, or on a Teams or internal channel, you're streaming that content live to everyone else's screens. Screen capture, so you can see up on the on my left hand side here, that is my screen capture. So that's actually this screen over on my right is actually then being shown up on the screen for you to see. Video capture, so that's you being able to see me. Audio capture, that's you being able to hear me. And it's the reason why I chose this one over many of the other ones, is there are other open source and free ones, is because this one is so simple and easy to use, and it's so easy to set up. So that's what we're actually going to jump into and actually have a look at. But I know a lot of people are going to be asking, what do you need to set this up? Realistically, you can do it from a computer or a laptop. I'm actually using a laptop right now. It's sitting down below me, and then I've got my screens and extra, but you don't need all this extra fancy stuff. You can do it straight from your laptop. What you will need is the OBS software, and then a camera and or microphone. And I use and or microphone. Realistically, you could do the entire presentation without this video, without someone seeing you. You can just talk to them using the screen capture function. But I find that having that video as well actually gives the user that ability to really see and interact with you. So with all that in mind, let's actually just jump into it. So David, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump into your computer and we'll help you set up your OBS.
Sure.
So you've already started dabbling with OBS. How have you found it so far?
Okay, not too difficult. The only thing that I'm finding difficult is I want to be able to present PowerPoint presentations, and I haven't got one at the moment ready to go. But what I'd like to be able to do is make a PowerPoint presentation with a brief little introductory slide, and then insert my video camera capture in the corner there so students can see me as I'm speaking. So that's where I want to be able to get to in the future.
Beautiful. So when we actually open up the program, we've got our display. So this is actually showing the footage that people are going to see. Down the bottom left-hand corner, we can see the scenes. Treat them like pages in the book. We can switch between those scenes and really get an understanding of what we're trying to achieve. Then we'll get our sources, and this is like the digital assets or the copy. So some of it's going to be copy in terms of like a PowerPoint presentation. Some of it's going to be your logos, images, or even your video capture. And then we've got the audio mixer. So what I might do, David, is actually start with some configuration just to help how I structure it personally. And when we actually get through, I'll actually be able to show you why I do this approach. So the first thing I always actually do is create a blank screen. A blank scene, and I move that to the top. So this is actually the first thing I have in there. Before I start recording, I have that blank screen so that when I go into the presentation, I know exactly what I'm looking at. What I would recommend, you can remove some of the audio mixes, but realistically, for the most part, because you're going to be on the screen for so little time, staying quiet is pretty easy. So then my recommendation is always going into a welcome. So if you right click on, we can actually, what we might do, I know you're done, actually let's leave it in there for the moment. We've got our logo, so you can actually go straight over to your logo, but then let's create a welcome screen. So you've got your video connected already, do you, David?
I've got my laptop video connected, but I can turn on my camera.
Okay.
And see if we can get that going.
Cool. So what we'll do is I'm selected the welcome scene, and now I'm going to actually start adding some assets to that screen or into that, or sources as OBS calls it. So what we'll do is do a video capture. So by clicking the button down the bottom, we've got a whole bunch of options, and video capture is that first one. You can name them, and why naming is quite useful. You can see that if I've used a asset or source in another scene, I can actually bring that into this scene as well, and I'll show you why that can be quite important. So you've got that set up. How you going, David?
Hey, good. Hey, everyone.
So if I needed to, you can actually change over. So this one's doing your laptop screen by default, but let's actually go in and grab that 4K screen. So you can see now we've got a really good presentation screen, and this is where we can start optimizing it. Now, personally, I like to have a little bit of color and everything around me. So one of the things we can actually do is we can actually resize that image. So see how I'm actually moving this around, and I've got the red selected. That means I can edit this video here. So if I wanted to do very quickly make something fun for you, and let's see if we can do this. No, that's using my computer, not your computer. There we go. So if we actually grab Paint, if you have other programs like Mental Bank, Photoshop, you can use Photoshop or anything like that, and it will actually do these tasks for you. But what we're going to do is just quickly grab your logo and spin that to the side, and we are going to use Paint, grab this logo and chuck her in. Now why I've actually done that is we can actually use the home functions and make this big again. We can use the eyedropper function to grab this red, that maroon color. So why I wanted to do that is we wanted to find out what this maroon color was, so then we can actually start a new format. Oops. And I'm not so familiar with Paint as I used to be. So I of course mucked that up. There we go. Ooh. Can you actually push the Windows key for me, just to make sure that we can get that a bit easier, David? Ooh. There we go. So Paint. Push that to the side. Got pictures. So we're going to drop that in. We're going to make this a big image. We're going to then eyedropper, grab this color, and then use the Paint bucket to basically override everything. So if we then select your logo, now once more, don't save over your logo because that would destroy it. But what we're going to do is just remove everything, because then we can create the solid paint of the background. So if we save this now, actually, and I did exactly what I told you not to do. So I did. So do you have that logo stored somewhere else, David?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Definitely don't do what I just did. But what I'll do is I'll show you why we're going to use this. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add another source. We're going to add an image this time, and we're going to add, so this is the what color is that, David? I'm not great with that color. Is it maroon?
So say that again. What color is the
maroon? Maroon. Everyone's going to laugh at me now. I'm just going to call it red.
Oh, it's deep red.
Deep red. All right, cool. So what it's going to do is give us the option to select
red.
Yeah. And where is that stored again? Sorry, David. You
need me to follow?
Oh, it's in pictures. I was in videos. I don't know why I thought videos would be where it is. So if we grab that, so now it's actually going to give us that full background. Now, yes, you can actually notice that we've actually already gone over your video, but to bring that back, we can actually just drag. Anything that's at the top is actually what's in focus. So now I can center this video, and instantaneously, rather than having that very bland kind of background, you have a very nice, clear and crisp. Now you can do that with anything. So what we could even do, if I didn't delete your logo, is we could actually move you up into here and put your banner along the bottom of that screen, doing the exact same function. So we can instead have a white background if we wanted to and use your logo or anything. It's just adding an extra function within there. Does that make sense? Yeah, beautiful. So what we'll then do is actually, we could again create another scene. Similar to the scene right now that I'm using on the screen, on my screen, I want to do some screen capture. So there's two ways that you can do screen capture. So if I create the new scene first, I could use this button to create a brand new screen, or because I've already got your video capture in place, what I can do is right click on this and click on duplicate. What that's going to do is give me the ability to create another scene that has all of the same sources. So let's say screen capture with camera. So we can see that it's actually made the exact same scene, but what I can do quickly is change this down, put you wherever you want. So you might want to be up in the top right hand corner, and then what we're going to do is add a new source for your display capture. Now, do you have a second screen connected, David, or is this your main screen? I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, or
I can't hear you too well. It's breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Do you have two screens or just one?
I have two.
All right, beautiful. So what we can do is display capture, and you notice it's actually picking up my same screen, which is very Inception. It won't break anything, but it messes with our mind more than anything else. So if I go onto screen 2, it's actually going to show up that display 2. Now it looks empty at the moment, but if I switch over that screen and we grab our PowerPoint presentation that we just had, no, that's my screen, not yours. David, could you push the Windows key for me, please?
Sure.
It didn't show on my screen. Okay, so it's just showing on this screen. So let's say we've got the PowerPoint presentation that we want to... Oh no, we can leave it on extend because we don't want to be we don't want to change up the screens that we have. So extend is good. So it is actually quite useful to have multiple screens when you're doing a presentation like this, if you can. If you can't, you just have to kind of deal with the inception a little bit. So start recording on OBS and then shut it down very quickly. But if we open up this presentation, my guess is that we can go into presentation mode. And is the other screen showing that presentation, David?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so when we actually minimize this, you notice on OBS it's showing that presentation as well. So I can hide this if I wanted to, so to make sure, yep, that's actually the screen I want to get. I can then minimize or bring this down. And by no means this isn't the only way you can do it. I like doing it this way. It's just personal preference of what I like. But you know, everyone has their own taste, so explore and play around with it. I think just having that bit of individuality to your videos as well is quite engaging for you learners. If all the teachers are doing the exact same thing, it's going to get quite boring.
Yeah.
So there you go, David. We've got that presentation up in place. So you could actually start recording, and it's actually going to start working for you. You can actually, if you wanted to, bring in a program itself. So rather than doing the video capture, you could do a window capture. So for instance, if I click on that and click OK, it's actually going to ask what presentation you want to bring in. Now you can actually see that it's actually bringing in PowerPoint by itself. So if you only had one screen, rather than doing a video capture, a display capture, which is going to display the entire screen that you have, you could actually just do a PowerPoint. Or you can actually bring in the exact window. Once more, you can select any of the different open programs you already have. The recommendation I have for this one, and this is where David was having some issues before, is you actually have to have that already open and functioning in order to actually use it. So, David, we've lost your image. Are you editing some?
So you might have to switch back to my laptop camera because my Nikon's actually running out of juice.
Cool. Well, that's actually a very good thing. If you need to change something, you can either right-click and go Properties, or you can just double-click on it, and you can see here we've got your other camera as an option. There we go.
Perfect. So
very, very quick and easy to change. You'll notice that because your Nikon had a lot more juice in it, or capacity, the file output was quite a bit different. Now I've actually got two. I've got the display capture and the video capture, so we actually don't need this display capture anymore because we don't want to grab that whole display. We just want to grab the window that we're talking about. So this, in Windows, you've got multiple different windows. Anytime you see the minus windowed function and X, that means that's a window, which means you could capture that window by itself. So we're going to just remove the display capture. So we've got the window that we want, because there's no point showing them everything at the moment. And you can see within my presentation, which David can't see at the moment, but my presentation actually has the display capture because I'm switching between programs. Been using PowerPoint at the start of this presentation, and now I'm actually using TeamViewer so I can remote access David's computer. So if you're having to do that and switch between programs, I highly recommend using the display capture rather than the window capture. Yeah. Now there's nothing stopping you from having multiple scenes. So once more, I've got my window, my welcome screen. And you'll notice that is actually resized because you're using a different camera now. So if you do change the camera, just be mindful. And we'll push that up into there. And we've got our screen capture with camera. So what we'll actually do again is actually just duplicate the with camera and make this a without camera. So once more, make sure you're in the right scene, and all we're going to do is we can either hide this camera or we can remove it entirely. Now, if this is the only scene that source is in, it will remove it permanently. But because I have that camera in my other scenes, that camera still exists. So just make sure that if you need it again, that you're not going to destroy it entirely. And then we can actually put this as the hero, put it up into a focal point, and really start hammering down on it. So this is, you can go nuts and create as many scenes as you like, and that would be my recommendation as you're going through, is do that pre-planning. Maybe try planning out some of your classes and running one or two of the classes to say, all right, well, I need this. And then actually go in. The more planning you do beforehand, the less you'll need to do after. But also keep adjusting and modifying this. So what we've been going for 23 minutes of me talking, but realistically, if you did this and added in some extra, so for instance, I can add in another image like a logo. So let's just call this a logo. If I actually didn't delete your logo before, we would be able to do something really fun, but let's pretend like you're a soccer ball logo. I can very quickly and easily add extra assets into the video, move them where I need to be, and get it ready. So this is all of that preparation step before you even start recording. And you can see that the controls to do that are very, very simple. You could probably ignore the start streaming. That's going to either Twitch TV, YouTube Live, any streaming service. You could just start doing that recording. But before we do that, what would actually be useful for you is going into the settings and going into the hotkeys. This is something that is very, very, very useful. And I always bind my F1 and F1 to streaming. You can use any buttons. This is what I use stereotypically, but I find using the F1 buttons, I don't use them in normal keyboard access. Anytime I hit the F1 button, whether I have that selected or not, it will cause OBS to do that action. So right now, I would normally do F2, F2 in these two. I'm not going to do it right now because it'll actually stop my recording, even though I'm using your computer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can then do pause recording once more. I'll do that to F3. I'm not going to do that right now because it would pause mine, even though I'm using yours.
Well.
And you can do that for all of these buttons. I would recommend picking the buttons you like to use, but just be aware, anytime you touch that button, even if you're not in OBS, it is actually going to do that, whatever you've bound the key to. But why this is so important is coming into here and you can see, all right, blank. Anytime you push 1, it's going to go to that blank screen. Now, as I do this, my recording is going to actually, and we'll see this, so my 2, my recording is actually now changed to the 2, even though I'm using your computer now, not mine. 3 goes to 3, 4 goes to 4, and people are actually now going to get to see my 5. But you'll notice that I did it in order of what I saw, but yours is actually different. So we actually want your 3 to be there. We want your without camera to be 5, and we want your with camera to be 4. And I did that in order. Funnily enough, it worked out that I ended up back in my screen on the screen I wanted it to be.
Good.
But now, anytime you're recording, or even when you're not recording, your keys are now going to be bound to that. So if I push 1, push 2, your screen's going to change to 2. If I push 3, we're both changing at the same time, which can be a bit, it's going to be fun for everyone watching at home. But those changes, I'm hitting one button on my keyboard and it's actually making that change on the screen. So when I'm recording, I don't need to be trying to fiddle with all of this software all over the place. It's all hotkeyed or bound to a button on my keyboard. It makes it a lot easier so that when you're ready, and you've done all this work and cleaned up the mess that I've just made on all of your desktop, when you're ready, you can actually, my recommendation is always start on the blank. You could hit recording, or you can use your bound key like F2. And then change to the screens and to the settings that you want. I've been talking for a long time. What kind of questions do you have? What would you like to try and go through if you had any extra?
In terms of moving through the PowerPoint presentation, be able to present, how can I go?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll open up this presentation. Now I'm going to take OBS and I'm going to push it off to the side, and the other program I want to have open on this side is your, and it's not letting me, there we go, is I want to open up your presentation view on your second screen. Does it still have?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So in your slideshows, there is a function. So there's a, and funnily enough, I was quite literally just using it on mine. Use presenter view. So this button here, use presenter view. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to break our connection. My guess is, I can't guarantee, but I'm guessing we're going to break our connection by pushing escape, because I've just closed it down. I then do presentation, or the presentator view, and now you'll notice that on this screen you've got information about this. This is super useful. I've actually got it on my screen down below. So my third screen is showing this message that you see up here. And on your main screen or this presentation screen, it's got the presentation. So what you guys see up here is not what I see down here. So if I switch back, what we'll need to do is I'll select this and push that off to the side. You'll need to do this, push that off to the side, and then I've got OBS running on this side. And because we did that connection, yours is automatically starting to work. So I can actually, on one screen, you can control OBS and see how it's running. I've got 3 screens, so I don't need to do this. But on one screen, you can actually have the presentation you're doing. I'll recommend using a full screen. On the second screen, you can split between OBS and the presenter view. So in here, I can see I'll hit recording. Now make sure you hit record and make sure you're watching that record button. I'm staring at the record button now because many times I've recorded a video and I didn't actually hit record. Make sure you do that. So we can start the recording and then control the actual view. So you can see that should, did your second screen change?
It did.
Okay, so what we'll probably need to do is go into here, do the delete of the window capture. Delete the window capture. Actually, I didn't need to delete the window capture. What we needed to do is just, oh no, maybe I do need to delete the window capture. So this is that whole OBS wants to have that program open before we call it in. So now if I do that call and I do window capture, and we want to do the presentation instead. Is that? And my guess is it's because we didn't have the PowerPoint open when we opened OBS. So in order to fix this, we'd have to close OBS, reopen. But just for video sake, because I'm cognizant that we are going quite a bit into 30 minutes. Let's just not do video capture, do the right thing. Let's do a display capture, and we're going to get your second screen like we did before.
Okay. Yep.
All right, cool. So then we can bring that down, put it where we need to, and I'll actually show you now what this would look like if I'm getting that display capture again. I don't need to create another display capture. I can go add existing. That display capture exists as a source in another scene, so then I can grab it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
And when you grab to edit, make sure you actually grab the corner, not not the side. So there we go. That's fixed this one up. We can go back here, and if I click next over here in presentation view, that should make the change in your recording as well. Yeah. You can also do this live. So whilst you're recording, you can make changes in OBS. Once more, preparation is key. I would recommend trying not to do that because having assets move across the screen while someone's using it can be very, very disjointing.
That's true. Yeah.
Why I like this approach though, is you're also able to add your own notes in. So the end user just sees this, but you can actually see everything else in terms of what's the next slide, what are the notes you're actually going to be going through. You're going to be able to have a lot more preparation and understanding of how that flow is going to go through, so that when you're going through it, it's not going to be as choppy as what I've just done. You're professional teachers, you can do things a lot better than a noob like me can do. And you can also even draw on things. So if you want to use your laser pointer, you can actually use that laser pointer and show things off. You can even draw as well. So if you want to get some extra attention on something, you can do things like this, which you can't do in a stereotypical classroom because most of the time it's behavior management rather than actually focusing on the content.
Yeah, that's great. So
any other questions?
No, that's all. That's fantastic. It's going to be really useful. Yeah, going to be very, very useful for my students. So I'm going to get recording.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thanks everyone. And make sure that if you want to have any questions yourself, put it in the comments below. And feel free to tell me what I should be learning next. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.